So, I haven't made it home yet, still in Africa. And of course I'm in Africa, and what do I have? I have a cold. So I'm in a really hot country, and I have a cold. So my voice may give out some point during this recording, and I make an apology for that now. Anyway, it is a Sunday morning rant. It's me from North Africa, and we'll see where we go with this. So the first thing to start off with is I've posted, or I've been editing some of the videos on the channel this week. And one of the things, and one of the comments that came back was somebody rightly said, "Dude, you're surrounded by all this audio equipment, and yet you can't hear your voice when you turn away from camera." Which is true. When I rewatched the video, you couldn't, and I apologise for that. There's nothing I can do about it. Just to give you an update, I mean, I use a very, very simple solution for recording these videos at the moment. Purely because I didn't know where they were going, so I wasn't going to invest large amounts of money in video equipment for it to be a 5-minute win. Although I quite enjoy doing this, I quite enjoy departing my knowledge to other people, my views to other people. Whether other people like my views or not, that's another thing. I mean, that's why likes and dislikes are on the YouTube channel, I guess, at the end of the day. But that's where I am. So anyway, cut a long story short, I need to upgrade the video solution. So I quite like the iPad as a medium, which is what I use, but I need an interface for the iPad so that I can record obviously my voice with some sort of lapel mic I'm thinking about. And the other thing I'm thinking about here is to have some sort of interface that I can record a stereo feed from the instruments, either directly off the desk or from another source within the studio, so that you can actually hear in proper quality what some of these things can do. I mean, I was watching some demos I did of the U110 and the U220 early on this week, and thinking, alright, the sound quality is alright, but it's not brilliant. Whereas if I directly injected the sound from the unit into a capture device, an audio interface for the iPad, you'd get a much better quality and therefore a much better experience. The only thing I'm struggling with is what is the device that I buy to plug into the iPad that actually makes the iPad a better mobile recording solution. The question is, do I buy a device that is a professional audio, as in for recording music, or do I just buy a device that allows me to record my voice? I think preferably it's going to be the first option, has a mic option and has an option for a line feed. But it's really difficult to actually find a device that is not too expensive, but actually gives you the right level of quality. So at the moment I think I'm sort of focused on one of two. I think it's either the solution from Roland or the solution from Focusrite. But I am open to suggestions. So if anybody out there has a suggestion on an interface, then please let me know. I'm not too keen on the interfaces that use the jack on the iPad, I have to be honest. I'm probably looking for an interface that uses the lightning connector, purely because I've just found that the solutions that use the jack in the past have not been very robust at expanding the sound sources and giving me a stereo feed for lining. So I've put that on the table. Anyway, I move on. A couple of things have come to light this week, just as passing things, because obviously I'm not in the UK playing keyboards at the moment, so I'm obviously in North Africa doing other things. So what I thought I'd do is I just run through some things that sort of came across either on Facebook or things that were sent to me this week. So I'll start off with Chord sent me an invite to go to their Beer and Synth evening in Brooklyn, which I thought was really nice of them, because I'd love to go to the Beer and Synth evening in Brooklyn, apart from the fact that at the moment I'm probably 5,000 miles away, and in normal terms I'm about 4,000 miles away, so popping over to Brooklyn for the evening for a Beer and Synth evening with them just is a little bit difficult. What I don't get is I don't get an invite to the Beer and Synth evening at the whatever brewery it was in London. So, keep it relevant. I'm based in the UK, send me UK or European events. The second thing I thought I'd bring up this week, and is a plug for a company in the Netherlands really, is I don't know whether anyone else has come across the StrangeWorldofSynths, all one word, or VintageWorks.nl, again all one word with a .nl. It's a Dutch company, and the reason I sort of mentioning them really is that they tend to sort of acquire, service, recondition and sell on legacy tech. Now, you know, if you've watched enough of my videos, that I have quite a few pieces of legacy tech in my studio. I'm not adverse to buying other pieces of legacy tech if I can see the need or the use of that piece of equipment in my studio or in the work I'm doing. But what's really interesting is A, they care about this equipment, and B, they sell it on. And so what you tend to find is there will be an advert on either a Facebook page, an Instagram page, or on their website, where they're actually saying, here is the latest piece of whatever that they have serviced and are now selling on. So if you're looking for specific pieces of legacy tech, it might be well worth just having keeping their page bookmarked, because you never know what sort of stuff they're going to come up with. The other reason I mention them is because they're a good source of reference for when your piece of legacy tech goes US. Now, if you're not as confident as I am in terms of being able to open the keyboard up and have a squiz around on what's gone wrong, personally I can fix most of the audio issues. I can fix the power issues if there's a power issue within the box itself, and do swap overs in terms of buying boards off the internet and replacing them. When it comes down to things like debugging whether a chip has gone bang, then I have to turn that over to somebody who's got a little bit more clue about integrated circuit technology. Although I can do a lot of diagnostics myself, you're then sort of into chip design and circuit design, which is something I never really studied. It's just stuff I've picked up along the way. However, if you're not like me and inclined to actually crack the box open and just have a quick root around and see what's going on, then they are another source of solution and maybe getting your equipment repaired. The thing I've mentioned this several times is that if you've got legacy tech, the number of people that are now around to repair your said legacy tech is getting smaller and smaller, and unfortunately some of these people are now starting to die, because we are talking about technology that was, in the case of something like a DX7 for argument's sake, that's 30 years old. Earlier synths are even older. So it's the information and the knowledge on these particular products is sort of starting to become thin on the ground. So just another source of somebody you might want to just bookmark and keep in the back of your mind. And something else that sort of pinged across one of my feeds this week as well was a big banner headline was create your own 808 with this $20 chip. And apparently in America, a individual has produced a 14-pin IC chip for around about $20 that has embedded on it the sounds of the classic 808. All well and good. And then for about $99, I think he's now come up with something called the Drum8 Vintage, which is a sort of little 500 style rack mount unit with 8 outputs on it that allows you to effectively trigger each one of those from some sort of a sequencer. So effectively you can trigger the sounds. It's not got its own sequencer as far as I can see, but you can actually trigger the sounds from a device that will then allow you to actually generate an 808 sound. And I think, I'm just reading this now, it's about $100 plus shipping probably. So, sounds like a good idea, a good return if you're into the 500 rack mount units, and You can build yourself an 808 there for just under $100. Sounds like a good bargain to me. Boom, 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 boom. The other thing that pinged across actually in the same email is about Behringer. Now, there's been lots of talk on the channels with the System 8 coming along that Behringer were jumping back into the synth market with the DeepMind, and where was the DeepMind going to fit? I haven't seen too much in terms of, I know there probably is a few videos, but I haven't really come across them, probably because I haven't really been looking. But there is some talk about the DeepMind being an incredible piece of kit. Again, I can't comment on that at the moment. I just can't comment. But there's also an article about Behringer now exploring the analog drum market and whether they're going to produce an analog drum machine to go with the DeepMind. Now, I find this interesting because obviously with the introduction of the TR8 in the ARIA series, and then the retro TR09, I think it is, TR09, the new boutique piece of equipment, and the bass unit. This would be really interesting if somebody else is now going to jump into that sort of analog drum machine market and actually start producing a brand new analog drum machine. I think that's really, I'll watch this space and how our Roland, who seem to have had the march on most of the other manufacturers in the sort of whole analog piece. I mean, Roland with their what do they call it, AC analog circuitry behaviour modelling scenario, where they model all the boutique stuff and all the ARIA stuff's being constructed by remodelling the actual circuitry behaviour, and somebody else is now actually going to come in and produce an analog device to actually fit into that market space. Should be an interesting one. Definitely, if they actually go forward and actually make it, that should be really interesting. Would I buy one? I don't know. Final, just while I'm talking about System 8, actually, I saw an email from Gattobus, and that's G-A-T-T-O bus, B-U-S, on YouTube this week. And I have to be honest and say, it makes me even more want to get my hands on my System 8. The System 1 was good, but the System 8 just seems to have so much more capability to it and flexibility in terms of how to make things happen. It's well worth a watch, the video. If you get a chance, have a look at the video. It's well worth a watch. It's only about 10 minutes long, but it actually shows how the guy is constructing the track just using the looping and sequencing on the System 8. So really, really makes me want to get my hands on my System 8 quicker than it's going to turn up. And I'm still at least 2 weeks away from mine being delivered. And I've said it before, I'm so jealous of you guys in the US who've started receiving yours. Hey ho. And the thing I'm just going to finish on this week is, anyone got an A110 to sell? I've been looking for an A110 for quite a while now, and unfortunately nobody seems to be selling one. In fact, I don't think I've actually seen one come up on eBay the last year. For those who don't know, an A110, Roland A110, is effectively a monitoring tool that allows you to monitor the MIDI signals or the notes that are being generated on a specific MIDI channel. The reason I want it is because I have a lot of legacy tech in my studio, and what I'm really after is I'm after a tool like an A110 that will allow me to debug the MIDI chain and see where, in some instances, I've got MIDI problems. So that's what I'm after an A110 for. It's just a visual tool to help me debug MIDI. It doesn't do an awful lot more than that. It's, I suppose in the good old days when everybody loved MIDI, I mean, it was a nice little tool to have in your rack that lit up every time you hit a keyboard, a key on the keyboard, and it showed you the note. Nice little device, but it does have a purpose, and I'd like one, but I can't find one anywhere. I do want a European or a UK spec. I'd rather not have a US spec because I then have to go and start mucking around with the transformer. Depending on how Roland have done it, on some of Roland's equipment, you can actually crack the box open and you look at the transformer, and it actually has an input for 240 volts, an input for 20 volts, and input one from 110 volts, and you can change the input and it will still give you the rectified output. But having not seen inside one of these, I'd really not chance the issues of buying something from the US, sorry guys, and having to do a conversion or step up transformer. Anyway, I'm just about losing my voice. It's slightly better than I thought I was going to get. Hopefully next week we'll be back in the studio, and we'll be able to pick up and see other things that are going on. But other than that, for now, take care.